Nishino Akane gets out of bed and has a shower when she first wakes up in the morning. After that, a personal driver brings her to her school as she gets ready for the day ahead of her. There, the most of the kids greet her, but she does see Kagenu, the student whom she despises the most. She extends her greetings to him, and he returns the gesture, but he addresses her as Nishimura. She informs him that her name isn't Nishimura, and he apologizes, saying that he used to be fairly good at remembering the names of NPCs, but that he hasn't been getting much sleep recently, and he continues to refer to her as Nishitani. She eventually snaps at him and reveals her real name, but Kagenu still calls her Nishimura as he walks away from the conversation. This causes her further annoyance. Akane makes the observation that the reason she dislikes him is not because he misspelled her name. Rather, she dislikes him because he never looks at her, and even when his eyes are directed in her way, they appear to be gazing off into the distance. Due to an incident that occurred when Akane was in middle school, she was forced to take a hiatus from the entertainment industry. Since then, she has always concealed her identity by wearing a mask. She plays the role of the teacher's pet in order for the teachers to like her, and she plays the role of the popular girl in order for the children to like her. She takes great care to ensure that no one dislikes her. After school, she attempts to reach her driver by phone, but he doesn't pick up because he was assaulted by a group of males. Because he did not come to pick her up, Akane is compelled to walk home, which marks the first time she has done so since the incident that occurred when she was in middle school. While she was on her way, the same men who had beaten the driver abducted her. She begins to lose consciousness, but not before she spots Kagenu coming closer. Later, Akane wakes up chained in some warehouse. The abductor advises her that she shouldn't go out walking alone at night because she is the daughter of Nishino Zaibatsu. The second kidnapper assures her that all she needs to do is wait there, and that they will release her as soon as they receive the ransom money. While Kagenu watches from the outside, he alters his appearance by putting on a mask and changing his attire. The person who kidnapped Akane wants to have some fun with her, and they notice that this should be her second kidnapping, and that the person who kidnapped her the previous time was some sort of stalker. After that, Kagenu descends from the roof window, where he was hiding, and announces that he is a stylish ruffian slayer. When the kidnapper Pooh let out a gun, Kagenu threw a piece of glass at him, which cut his arm and rendered him unable to use the weapon. After that, he rushes at the individual, knocks him to the ground, and punches him in the face multiple times. The second kidnapper recognizes that Kagenu is not a typical man and explains that he was becoming tired of working with incompetence during those kidnappings. He adds that he served in the military in the past, then pulls out a knife and begins to attack Kagenu. Kagenu is successful in disarming the man with the use of crowbars, but he is ultimately overcome. After that, he makes the decision to become serious and demonstrate to him the potential that he discovered in crowbars while he was fighting bikers. The man eventually comes to the conclusion that he is the Balaclava Berserker, a man who has been engaged in combat with the bikers using crowbars. As a result of the fact that the bikers started wearing helmets, Kagenu was forced to switch from employing the crowbars as tonfa to making use of them in the same manner as conventional clubs. After that, Kagenu continues by breaking the man's leg and beating him up more. Akane is eventually set free by Kagenu, who cautions her to use greater caution the next time. After that, Akane dials the police, and her father uses his connections to prevent the incident from becoming public knowledge. Akane will start school the next day. When she sees Kagenu, she says hello to him, and he says hello back to her, calling her Nishino. She is about to correct him when she discovers that he has spoken her name correctly. She also has the distinct impression that he is looking at her at this point. She came to the conclusion that he, too, was leading a double life. The following morning, the news reported that Minoru Kagenu had been killed the previous night after being struck by a truck. Kagenu is unable to recall exactly when he first entertained the idea of being a hero, but he always did. He spent his days training, and at school he played a more peripheral role because of this. He got to the point where he can beat up some guys, but when he's surrounded by men who are armed, he doesn't stand a hope of survival. Even if he trains to become the most skilled martial artist in the world, he won't be able to stop a missile even if it's fired at him. Even if he manages to defeat the other men, though, he won't be able to stop it. Kagenu has the goal of surpassing those boundaries. When Kagenu is killed by a truck, he is reincarnated in a different world. He establishes an organization, and together with his team, they are getting ready to initiate a mission. He had also gained a new ability, which was magic. Kagenu has a strong desire to take on the role of the Eminence in Shadow, which refers to a person who dominates others while remaining hidden. Sid receives a report from Alpha in which she confirms all that he stated to be accurate, and informs him that she discovered mentions in ancient documents of what they believe to be the cult of Diablos. Minoru Kagenu is reincarnated as Baron Kagenu's son after being killed in a vehicle accident. Baron Kagenu is an aristocrat who lives in the middle of nowhere. He has a swift comprehension of the circumstance and senses that there is enchantment in the atmosphere. The Kagenu family has been known to train individuals with the ability to augment their capabilities utilizing various forms of magic. Because she is highly talented, the Kagenu family has high expectations for Sid's older sister, Claire Kagenu. Sid spends his childhood as a nondescript guy that doesn't attract anyone's attention. Nonetheless, at night he emerges from hiding to engage in battle against robbers. He quickly disposes of the bandits and steals their gold and other valuables with the help of his slime sword. He also discovers a cage containing some rotting creature, and realizes that the creature is possessed and that its magical capacity has been exceeded. He takes an interest in it and brings it home, where he does various experiments on it, including shooting it with magic and doing other things to it. After a month of trying, he is finally successful in reigning in the miraculous success. After that, the creature reverts to its usual appearance, that of a young and lovely elf. Sid, at a loss about what to do next, decides to put on a performance. As the elf begins to regain consciousness, Sid reveals that he was able to break the curse that had been placed on the hero's offspring. He then reveals to her a fictional book about 3 heroes who vanquished Diablos and tells her that the story is actually based on real events, and that before the demon's death, he placed a curse on the heroes. After that, he says that the cult of Diablos are hatching a plan to bring the demon back to life. Sid works covertly to put an end to the Diablos cult while the majority of individuals have moved on from the organization. He calls himself Shadow, describing himself as someone who lives in the shadows and hunts other shadows. Sid approaches her and asks if she would be interested in joining him. Having nothing left to lose, she says yes and explains that they need to locate other heroes' descendants in order to grow their organization. Sid nods his head in assent and suggests that they call their collective endeavor Shadow Garden and the young lady Alpha. After an additional year and a half, Sid is now 13 years old. When he trains with his sister, despite the fact that he is readily capable of defeating her, he allows himself to be defeated by her. At this point in her life, Claire has reached the age of 15, which is the minimum age for entry into the Midgar Academy for Dark Knights. On the day that Claire was scheduled to leave for the academy, she went missing. During those previous 3 years, Alpha had been successful in recruiting more people to join their group. Sid inquires as to the whereabouts of Alpha, to which Beta responds that she is hunting for a clue to locate Claire. Beta adds that there is a good chance that Claire is still alive, and that she was taken captive by a high-ranking member of the cult of Diablos. There is a good chance that the cult considers Claire to be a descendant of one of the heroes. Beta pulls out a map and says that they only have a few known hideouts, but that she does not know which one they are keeping Claire in. Sid fashions a slime knife, which he then uses to hurl at the map. In the end, he doesn't make it to the hideout, but he promises that they can find his sister there. Then, Beta arrives at the conclusion that the cryptograms are nothing more than a ruse and that there is, in fact, a hidden hideout at the place indicated by Sid. After that, he instructs her to get in touch with the 7 shadows. At the secret location, Viscount Grease has Claire restrained by enchanted chains that prevent her from escaping. He makes a statement about how well her father taught her how to fight, but Claire says that she learned everything she knows by sparring with her brother. Grease then asks if he cured her when she showed indications of possession, to which Claire replies that he cannot possibly heal her, and that it is impossible for him to do so. Grease brings to their attention the fact that they ought to investigate her brother as well, just in case. At that precise moment, Claire breaks one of the shackles and injures her right arm in order to free herself. She then informs her captor that she will murder him if he touches her brother. After that, Grease knocks her out, and a man comes in to tell him that there are other people in the house. The 7 shadows have no trouble severing the men of Grease into manageable parts. In their presence, Alpha reveals that they are Shadow Garden, and that their objective is to completely eradicate the cult of Diablos. Grease is perplexed as to how they are aware of that moniker, and its mysteries. He makes an assault on Alpha, but she is easily able to deflect his blows and wounds him, declaring that she won't finish him off until they hear back from him with an explanation. Grease realizes that he is becoming overwhelmed, so he decides to take a medicine that will strengthen his powers. He is successful in driving Alpha away, and he proceeds to shatter the floor before fleeing the scene. Alpha explains to the girls that there is no need to chase him because Shadow is already following him, and that is why they split up in the first place. In the meantime, Shadow is disoriented and has no idea where the females have gone. In the course of his exploration of the tunnels, he comes into Grease. He strikes Shadow, but Shadow is able to deflect his blows with ease. Shadow then reveals that he possesses a greater potential for magic than Alpha, but he is unable to properly utilize it. He makes the decision to teach him a lesson and defends himself against his attacks. Shadow launches an attack on Grease as soon as he is finished and begins to cut him, prompting Grease to question whether or not he has ever been so outmatched in a fight before. Grease responds that regardless of how powerful he is, the evil that exists in the world is much deeper, but Shadow assures him that he will simply delve deeper. Grease takes additional tablets and buffs himself even further in order to demonstrate to Shadow that humans are weak and powerless despite their seeming worth. Shadow is able to deflect his assaults, and then, employing a significant quantity of magic, he brings Grease to his knees. As Grease begins to fall, he realizes that he was helpless against the darkness, but perhaps Shadow is not. The following day, Claire arrives back at her house in an irritable attitude. Her wounds heal quickly, and the next day she reports for duty at the academy. Sid is excited to attend the academy himself, but he won't rush into it just yet because he has 2 more years to go and he needs to give the girls something to do in the meanwhile. However, Alpha informs him that it is time for them to leave him, which causes him to experience astonishment.